A Running Sentences presents Miles to Go, Part 2, The Lonely Town. A new town and more issues await Hiram, who wants to help, yet trouble still finds him. This story is written and narrated by Michael Hunnery. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within this story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional businesses, characters, events, and so on and so forth is purely coincidental. Copyright 2026, Michael Hunnery. All rights reserved. Hiram kept his foot down on the gas pedal. He had, as promised, stopped at a post office along the way and posted the care package he said he would to that lady. But that had been 6 towns ago, and he didn't want to risk the sheriff calling it in that he was on the road, which is why he changed his license plate and taken an exit to a different highway to see what it had to offer. The stretches of road in front of him were nice and quiet, with miles and miles before him of grassy fields that was just flat land. There was a sign hanging over the highway that said Dust Bowl City, 3 miles away. The music playing on his radio was soon interrupted by a news reporter. "All right, what dreadful stuff are you going to tell me today, newsman?" Hiram asked the radio. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your local news radio moment. Once again, the world around our sleepy little section of the world is sleepy. Our big news is that a person on the loose remains on the loose." "How is that a helpful report? It doesn't say shit, reporter." "It is said that this person on the loose is a man with money and a knack for talking to people. Watch out and report anyone to the cops should you see someone suspicious, just like you always do with everybody around you." That was sort of vague enough and broad enough that anyone and everyone could be reported, and Hiram shook his head at the report as it ended on that note, and went back to playing music. I figured he would have to change up the way he did things if they were reporting on him like that. He was grunting to himself when he saw hazard lights blinking up not far off. A car pulled off to the side of the road, and the man stood next to his car, huddled up, looking out into the darkening expanse of flat land around them. Hiram slowed down and then pulled his car off to the side of the road in front of this stranger's car. "Hi," he called out when he exited his car. The man in the broken-down car merely waved his hand hello. "You need some help?" Hiram offered. "Engine conked out, I think. Started smoking and then just stopped running." "Ouch. Sorry to hear that, sir. Are you waiting for a tow truck? Have you managed to call one? Cell phone status here can be a bit tricky from what my phone shows," Hiram asked as he reached into his pocket to pull out his phone. "Nah, I lost my phone." "Well, you can borrow mine if you like. It's getting late out here and the sun's really getting close to setting. I don't know how late these tow trucking places stay open." "Pretty late," the man grumbled. "I've had this old junk break down on me a lot of times." Hiram had pulled out his cell phone and handed it over, and the man gratefully took it. "Sounds like you need a new car." "I wish I could afford one. My work doesn't pay enough. I have to spend money elsewhere to keep on surviving day to day." "A hard life then, sir." "Yeah, thanks for the phone, mister." Nodding to him, Hiram watched as this man took a few steps away and called the tow shop. It took only a minute before he was back and handing the phone over, which Hiram did. He paused, waiting to see if this man had anything more to say on that matter, but it didn't appear to be the case. "You okay out here on your own?" Hiram asked. "Yeah, been here plenty of times, and you just get in the way. These tow truck drivers like to have lots of room to get cars up on their ramps and all tied up and whatnot." Unable to stop himself, Hiram glanced about the mostly empty road and then back to his car. It wasn't that close to this man's car, but apparently that was a problem. He shrugged at the weirdness of it. "All right, well, good luck to you. If you need any help, I'll probably be in Dust Bowl City just up the road. I'm Hiram, by the way. Nice to meet you. Alan calls me Joe. Just Joe? Yeah, had another name, but forgotten it, and well, it don't matter much. Right, good luck, Mr. Joe. Maybe I'll see you in town. Lunch or food is on me if I do. He walked back to his car, made sure to take one more look at the man named Joe, and then, with another shrug, got moving again. Having managed to get to a hotel and then get a hotel room for the night by negotiating once again to pay day by day in cash, Hiram now sat in the all-night diner that was in front of said hotel. It was practically empty even though it was only the early night. The waitress, having taken his order a few minutes ago, swung by since she really didn't have anything else to do. Everything good so far? Yes, fine, thank you. This place is pretty quiet. Is this town always this way? Yep, ever since the factory got taken over by some big corporation. Then they were taken over by some AI companies, I think, and then they shut down the place, since they could do the work elsewhere, or that was what I heard. Hiram found himself nodding along, not really understanding, but getting the basic gist of it all. The waitress was very animated by the way she talked, the pot of coffee in her hand swinging about a bit, although there wasn't too much coffee inside. Still, Hiram moved a little bit deeper into the booth he sat on to avoid any potential scalding spillage. That sounds terrible, miss, Hiram finally said. It really is. Everything is slowly and quickly going downhill. Sounds like the perfect sort of place for someone to invest in to bring it back to life. Oh, that ain't happening, the waitress replied. Why not, miss? Local politicians like their fiefdom the way it is. Newcomers run off at the mere sign of intelligence and offers of change. I see, and noted. Thank you, Miss Waitress. So, what's a young man like you doing traveling around these lonely, dust-covered roads? Not even the big government gets around these parts anymore. Not since things fell apart when the president took apart the government. I like to travel and see things. That's about it. Oh, like that rumored person traveling about with the cash? Have you heard about them? Yeah, a few things in the last town I was in. They're on the lookout for him for some reason, Hiram said. Yeah, I think it's because he has money. The whole thing doesn't make much sense to me, but then again, I'm just a waitress who doesn't know the world. I somehow doubt you don't know the world and its people. Perhaps not all of them, but you know enough about whatever people and characters come through here. Except for you, sweetheart. Nice of you to say that as well. The door to the all-night diner opened and rang with a bell as in strolled the tired-looking Joe. He waved his hand to the waitress, who in response put her free hand on a hip, the other juggling that coffee pot still. Hey, you guys got some good grub? You know we do, Joe, but you don't have the money for it. I'll pay for his meal, miss, Hiram said. You'll do what, mister? The waitress asked this in surprise as she turned to Hiram. He nodded, and what he meant he said, though he wasn't sure if she understood why he was nodding. The surprised stare coming from her was empty of any recognition on what he was saying or nodding to. I saw him by the side of the road with a broken-down car and offered to pay for some meal of his. We all need a little bit of help from time to time, don't we? He's a bit of a freeloader, you know that, the waitress said. We all are at some point in our lives. We live off the grace of others or have jobs merely by the grace of someone else. Sometimes it's just nice to do something for other people. Alright, but you'll be paying for an expensive meal. He likes to order a lot of food. I do not, Miss Waitress. It's fine. Both of you, it's fine. Order what you want, Joe. You've had a rough night. That's most nights with this guy if he isn't panhandling. I only do that because the factory shut down, Joe said defensively. You didn't even work there. I didn't have to work at the factory. I was employed at the place that supported it. When the big place went down, so too did my job. Fine, whatever. What you gonna order, Joe? Steak and home fries. The waitress turned back to Hiram with raised eyebrows. You okay with that? It is fine. In fact, why don't I give you, say, $60, which should cover my meal and his. Whatever is left, it's yours to keep. Before she could respond to that, other than letting her mouth drop open, and then trying to speak, but the words just never came out, he slipped out of the booth, the money quickly out of his pocket, and handed over to her. She still wasn't really responding, so Hiram took his chance to get out of there. Morning came around, and Hiram left his hotel, thankfully that the cops hadn't come poking around yet. He was strolling across the parking lot towards his car when he noticed two men sort of following him. They weren't really stinky about, they were sort of hiding near a bunch of trees, so they didn't stand out much. Except their clothes and demeanor gave them away right away. It's not really belonging around that hotel. With ripped, worn clothes and dirty faces, they were easily spotted as vagabonds. Hiram came to a stop, so too did the two men, both elderly, although they had just emerged from the tree line. A good eye set on this one. I don't know if that's a good thing, Horace. Course it's good. Now we can just go talk, Jammy. Hiram continued to study the man as he turned to watch them as they approached. Neither seemed dangerous, but they certainly looked like they wanted something from him. Can I help you two? Yes, but no, the one called Jimmy said. Jimmy here thinks it's below us to reach out to a savior. That didn't really make sense to Hiram, and he raised an eyebrow, hoping it would spark a little more explanation from the one that was called Horace. True. I didn't want to annoy a person who's already helped out Joe. Why would he go out of his way to help us when he's already helped one down and out of luck person? People like him who have that kind of money don't do that thing to several people. Jimmy, it never hurts to ask, Horace said. You two are seeking help? What kind of help? What's the problem that you're having? Hiram asked. The two homeless men looked at one another and had fallen silent as they were nudging at each other to make the other give the answer. I can't help you if you two don't ask for help. It took a second more before Horace spit it out. We need money bad. Well, what for, sir? Hiram asked. Nothing and everything. We can't survive much longer in the streets. I mean, look at us. I have Mr. Jimmy, as your friend called you. You two certainly look like you could use some money, but I don't think just handing you some cash is going to solve your problems. See, I told you, Horace. Shut up, Jimmy. Are you willing to help us, though, mister? That's all we care about. I can certainly try and help you out, sir. You will? Jimmy exclaimed, surprised. Yeah, Jimmy, but let's go somewhere else to do it. I'm sure you have somewhere quieter than you like to have this sort of chat. Oh, yes, that sounds great. There's a couple of trash containers behind the big old market. That's our food store. We like to beg food there. No one will bother us, Horace said. We'll be there at 12 noon. Don't be late, or we'll have to come find you, Jimmy added. I'm sure I will find that place and be there at the appropriate time. The two homeless men nodded eagerly and hurried off, leaving Hiram standing there and staring at where they were. He wasn't too sure about them, or if giving them help was the right thing to do. He feared they'd just burn it on drugs or alcohol, or maybe some other vice he wasn't aware of. But he figured it was best to believe in people, so for now he would try and do that. The supermarket wasn't a hard place to find. It stood out like a sore thumb in a mostly empty strip mall just off the main road through this town. It was not a pretty sight for a building, looking kind of ugly, dirty, and disrepaired. He'd actually spotted this place when he'd come into town, but he figured he didn't need to mention that to the homeless guys. and you wanted to explore a bit to get a bit more of a feel for this town itself. Plus, he needed to grab some food supplies if he was going to stick around for more than a couple of days. As he was walking about, looking at the mostly empty aisles, he found himself approached by a store clerk who was frowning. "Sir?" Yes, hello, miss. "You aren't from around here, are you?" Taking a long look at this woman, he nodded yes. "Is that some sort of problem?" "Yes, this town is closed off to strangers," this woman said. "I'm sorry, I don't think I understand what you're saying. I have a hotel room with no trouble, but you're saying I can't shop here or I'm not welcomed at all? Because I'm not sure that's true." "You can't shop here, and I don't think you're allowed to be here in town either," the lady replied. He looked over this young woman who was standing there rather nervously twiddling with her thumbs, playing with them really. "That sounds extreme. Is this by some sort of ordinance? The town officials have dictated that this is to happen?" "I don't actually know. It isn't my responsibility to keep up with town politics. I'm merely telling you what my bosses told me to tell you." "Your bosses sent you over to do their dirty work?" She shrugged and looked over her shoulder at a small collection of workers huddled together. "I'm just telling you what I have to do." "Okay, apologies, I don't mean to take it out on you. I'll leave." With a sigh of relief escaping from her, Hiram shook his head sadly. He glanced over the group, who looked quite happy to see him beginning to walk away. But he got close to them before he could leave, and so he paused for a second to speak directly to them. "I'm surprised to see how happy you all are at scaring away business." This stopped their little celebration, but Hiram had decided he wasn't sticking around or waiting around to see what effect his words had. While he was sure there were security cameras around the side of the supermarket, Hiram didn't bother to look out for them. He was sure someone would come and tell him off soon enough, but until then, he had these two gentlemen to go meet and potentially help. Potentially. He didn't have the greatest feeling about this, and worried that giving them money would only create further problems for them, for him. It was probably going to be a mess. If the city officials were upset by people buying stuff in their businesses, then some homeless people getting money would certainly raise some eyebrows, and get these people in trouble. The two men from before suddenly appeared from around one of the dumpsters and rushed towards him. "Mister, you're here?" "Yes, I am, Mr. Jimmy." Good, and give us some money and we'll leave you in peace," Horace said. "And if I don't?" "All we care about is the money. Don't give us any problems and we can be on our way," Jimmy said, throwing glances all around the place. "We need that money," Horace said, adding to Jimmy's comments. "Are you sure that it won't cause you more problems than it is worth? I'm willing to hand over $100 each, but I figure it will cause you some issues." "Money," Jimmy said. "We need it," Horace added. "A lot of people need it, though if I may, it might be a good idea for you two to leave town once you get that money." "Why?" Horace asked as he looked about. "Horace, why do you care? We just need that cash." "Which brings me to another question, gentlemen. What do you want with this money? To keep it? Spend it on alcohol? What's it for?" Hiram asked. The two homeless men looked at one another, then turned back onto Hiram. Each took a threatening step forward towards him. It was as threatening as they could offer. He didn't feel very threatened, but took a step back to make them feel good. "We need money to stay alive," Jimmy announced. "Yeah, now give it to us." "I will on one condition, Mr. Horace, Mr. Jimmy." "We can just take it from you," Horace continued his advance, ignoring Hiram's comment as he said this. and to which Hiram had to frown as a result, since he didn't want to cause a scene, but these two men were doing their best to make one. If this wound up getting him caught, he really was going to have a lot of thinking to do about how he was helping people. "Please don't make me fight you. I'm probably a better fighter than you are," Hiram said, hoping to discourage things. "There are two of us," Jimmy said. "And I've already said I'd give you money. You two don't pay attention very well. This could all be over if you just listen to me for a moment." "We heard you, but we don't believe you," Horace then added. "If you don't believe me, then beating me up won't get you the money. It isn't on me." "You're supposed to have the cash," Jimmy yelled at him. And taking a few more steps back and away from these gentlemen, Hiram held up his hands to try and calm the situation down. Neither looked happy, and Horace had taken his first step in a moment forward, plus he was balling up his fist. The man's arms hadn't seen a day's heavy lifting in a long time, so its effective punching power was in doubt, though Hiram had definitely learned never discount anything, so he was careful. "I will give you the money if you're willing to leave town. That is my counteroffer." "We don't want to leave town," Horace declared. "I'm willing to leave town, though," Jimmy said, which surprised Horace, who looked at him with an angry look. "Oh, good. I can give you more to start over your life if you do as I ask, Mr. Jimmy." "Why are you doing that?" Horace said, shocked, and Hiram kept taking more steps back, not trusting them to do the right thing and stop threatening him. "It's better for all of us, for both of us, if we help each other out. My way of helping you is to bring you to the next town, give you some money so you can get a fresh start. Isn't that what you want?" Hiram asked. "Why are you doing that?" Jimmy asked. "I was just chased out of this supermarket for looking at food to potentially buy. On the orders of the city council, I think, or whoever is in charge. They don't like strangers, apparently. Now think of what will happen to you when you show up with money and start asking to buy things, gentlemen." The two had kept moving as Hiram had continued to back away from them, but now came to a stop. They looked uncertain about this, like they hadn't really thought about how people might react to them suddenly having money. Judging from the frowns on their faces, it probably wouldn't end well for them. It was Jimmy who was the first to speak up, rapidly waving his arms about to drive home what he was saying. "He has a point. We can't exactly live here if we have money, and we don't really have anything tying us to this town. Why not leave with some money?" "It smells like a trap, Jimmy," Horace replied. "I'm willing to let you get into my car, drive you to the edge of town, or wherever you want beyond that, and give you money. How is that a trap?" Hiram said. "Why not just hand us the money? Why do you care what we get up to?" Horace asked. Nodding to this comment from the man, Hiram took a breath in to try and explain all of it without giving away the real problem. The less people that knew the troubles that followed him or about him, the better off he would be. "Because I'd rather not be the cause of any problems for any other people. It would weigh on me rather heavily to find out or to think that you refused to leave here because you thought that these people would accept you, all because you now had a little something called money. I'll take this trip out of town. I don't care what Horace does, but if it gets me out of this hellhole, it's great." "Wait a second, Jimmy. What if he's a mass murderer who tricks people into following him because of money or something?" As Horace announced that, they looked towards Hiram, so he shook his head no, that he would not do that sort of thing. It felt unlikely that they were going to believe him, but he figured it was worth a try. "I'm no murderer. I'm not one. I never will be. My only interest is in helping people right now." "Oh, yeah?" "Yes, Mr. Horace, yes. I can help you out, and I can help your friend out. The money is in my car to help you out. Follow me to it, or don't. I'm offering a ride out of town to go along with it. You, though, do not appear all that interested in my offer." Hiram turned around and began walking away. He wasn't sure if he had heard footsteps following him or not, and he didn't really bother to look around. The sweltering heat of the day was starting to become a real pain as Hiram walked from behind the supermarket towards his car. The blacktop of the pavement, though not really well taken care of, was sending heat all over into the nearest thing, which happened to be anything that touched it. He was feeling sweaty, all too sweaty by the time he got to his car, and popped open the trunk. Then he finally turned to see that only Jimmy had followed. "Your friend's scared of something?" Jimmy nodded yes, but also shrugged, appearing unsure of what to say. "All right, well, I've got to drive to the hotel to check out. You can come with me or stay here and I'll come back for you." "Oh, no, I am coming with you." "You don't want your money leaving, of course," Hiram said. And to be safe, I want some money in advance, just so that I know you're being honest," Jimmy said. Nodding to that, Hiram turned and reached into the trunk, pulling out a few $20 bills, about $40 worth or so. He handed them over, which the man, Jimmy, looked at cautiously. "That's about $40. I'll give you another 1,000 once we're in another town, or at the edge of this town. If you'll get into the car, please." Jimmy's eyes went wide at the cash in his hand and the words that he had just heard, and for a second the man looked like he was just about ready to bolt and run away, that the money in his hand was enough. Hiram broke the spell the money had over this homeless man by slamming the trunk lid shut, and then Jimmy looked to him. "To the hotel?" "If you get in the car, yes. That's where we're going next," Hiram said to Jimmy. Not wasting a moment more, the man raced around to the passenger front door, pulled on the door handle to get it to open. The door was still locked, though, and with a click of the button from Hiram, the locks allowed the door to be opened. Hiram strolled across the lobby of the hotel towards the check-in desk and sighed. It was a fairly nice place to stay, and now he was back on the road. There was another person standing in front of him at the desk, talking to the worker. "I'm only asking if weird people have come through here lately. It isn't that hard of a question to answer," the strange man, grilling the worker, asked. "It is none of my business to judge who stays here, mister. I'm sorry I cannot answer your question, and now there's a person behind you who I have to attend to, if you don't mind." "It's no big deal. I'm just here to check out and return my keys. I've already paid in advance, so I don't think it'll be a big deal, but, maybe it is," Hiram said. "Oh, okay," the worker replied, shaking their head yes. "Who are you?" Hiram looked over to the man, a little surprised that he was being talked to. "Who, me?" "You're the only other person here at the moment," the stranger pointed out. Okay, well, I'm just a traveler moving through the town on my way to the city. Who are you, sir?" "Name's George O'Late, and I'm a private detective. What's your name?" "I'm Hiram. That's all I go by, so that's all you can call me. So, Hiram shifted his attention to the worker. All set up, all ready to go. I paid in advance, so I just drop off these keys, right? Miss Clerk?" "Just 1 second. Let me type it in, and I'll get you all set. You're all set. You're free to go, Mr. Hiram." "Oh, thank you. Goodbye." He handed over the keys and then turned to start walking away, when he noted that there was the sound of footsteps following him across the lobby. It wasn't a large lobby, and he was almost to the door by that point, so he turned and looked at the private detective, who was definitely following him. "Am I in your way, sir?" Hiram asked curiously, though not too curious at the same time. "I was leaving at the same time you were. Is that a problem?" the private detective responded. No problems at all. Please, by all means, you can leave first." You have a problem with people following you?" Doesn't everyone, Mr. George? It's a weird thing to feel, and for your sake, and to make sure you don't get the same sensation, I shall wait a minute once you've left. So, okay, you're free to go. I will wait here," Hiram offered. "No, I don't think I trust that at all. Why are you being weird, sir?" the man asked. "I think it's in everyone's nature, especially my nature, to be cautious of people I've just met. They always seem to be trying to get something from me," Hiram responded with a glare at this man. "No, not me. You can leave at any time, Mr. Hiram, as you called yourself." Not liking this one bit, Hiram put on a fake smile and walked towards the self-opening doors. They slid open as the footsteps behind Hiram started up again. "Please stop following me," Hiram requested. "I'm not doing that. I'm not following you despite what you think." "Good." Stepping out onto the parking lot, Hiram paused once again. He stepped to the side so the man would have to pass him or could pass him by, but the man stopped by him as well. Glancing his way, Hiram studied the man in his stained and button-up shirt that needed to be cleaned. It definitely felt like this was the sort of man who was following him, but there was only one way to be entirely sure. He turned and began walking towards the right side of the hotel. There was parking over there, but he hadn't parked over there. The sound of footsteps following him was all too obvious. As he rounded the side of the hotel, Hiram broke into a light jog. He was going to race past this side and hurry towards the back, then turn and confront this man with only his fist. He really didn't like violence, since it only led to pain coming back on him twofold, but there were times when it had to be accepted. He made it about halfway when he felt something tug on his shirt, slowing him down a bit. "What the fuck is your problem?" Hiram shouted this as he spun about on the man, who threw a punch towards his face. Being off balance and trying to duck at the same time didn't really work, though, and the punch wasn't well thrown at all either by this man. "You're him, aren't you?" Hiram fell on his ass, the punch avoided and his balance having left him not that long ago. He hurriedly tried to get up, but George was stomping closer to him, trying to stop him from doing so. "What are you talking about, sir?" "Traveling man with the money, Mr. Hiram." "You are deeply mistaken if you think that's who I am," Hiram replied. "I've been tracking you. I know who you are." "No, you've got it all wrong." George, though, pounced, hands extended, grabbing at Hiram's neck, wrapping it up in a choke, ready to choke him. The feeling and need for air were now coming quickly to Hiram. Then the hands went slack as a figure, this George, slumped onto him. The end of Part 2 of Miles to Go. Thank you for listening.